Yo, welcome back, everybody. Another episode 11. This, that, and the third podcast where we highlight those that's legit doing many things in different industries around this beautiful country of ours. And some gonna be out of the country. I'm gonna bring on a ton of different guests. But today, man, I got somebody special. Guy that I respect, admire, man. I first met him. It was like you making a kindred type spirit with the energy that he exuded. Um, he's a what I call the youngest in charge because you hear his age of what he started at, where he's at today. The podcast he started, millionaire before 30, tons of stuff, man. I ain't gonna get too much away. I'm gonna bring on my man Ryan Zolin. What's up,
What's up?
man?
How's it
Good.
going?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. It's good to have you on the podcast, man, for sure. This is something I've been trying to set up for a minute. Cause again, I like to highlight those that's legit doing what they say they do. It's a lot of foolishness out here,
Tell
and
me about it.
yeah, right. There's a lot of misrepresentation, what I call it. Anybody can Google and YouTube some stuff, put it together, and make it their own. However, you're someone like I said when I came to it was Arizona early on. You had that meetup, and
Yep.
the conversation we had, your intentions you put out there, your whole thing. I said, oh, it's something about this. This the one right here. Somebody I can relate to, man. So I just always wanted to give you flowers,
I
wow,
appreciate
to
that,
the
bro.
word,
Thank you,
man,
thank you.
for sure.
I take a lot of pride in the fact that I've been doing this for a long time, and also before I started even considering myself as like an educator or a
Mhm.
mentor, or a coach, or anything along those lines, I had to learn the business and earn my stripes. So there was a lot of doing the business as like a guru before becoming, which I don't even like the word of guru. And even then, I practice what I preach. I'm still to this day more of an investor than anything.
Mhm.
And I like to call myself more of a real estate friend than a coach.
Yeah, 100%. And that's what relates me to you. 100, like that whole intro you did. It's how you more so do it, not the title stuff. It ain't about none of that. It's
Yeah, I
just
hate
about, hey,
titles.
this is what I want to do. This is my impact. And starting off at 18, man, I know your story, like how you from high school, your family, your not the sharpest how you said it. Like, hey, I wasn't the kid in high school doing the thing, but it was this thing of real estate at 18 that said this is my path. What was that point, that turning point? Like, hey, this is it.
Honestly, I like to say real estate kind of just found me. I
Mm,
didn't really know what I didn't know. I wasn't looking at college. I barely graduated high school. And so
mhm,
my options were starting at like a blue collar trade company at the bottom. It was going to a trade school and learning a like skill set, or
mhm.
it was what I did was go to Google and I typed in richest people in America, how to make $1 million, what industries pay the most, and real estate was up there. So I ended up over at like a rich dad, poor dad seminar, and basically just to really prove how dumb I was. What I got out of it was that you need a real estate license, which, as we know on the investment side of real estate, is 100% not the truth.
Mhm.
And so I ended up just going to real estate school thinking that's what I was supposed to do. And I graduated in May of 2016. I was in real estate school July 5th, and then I got licensed and everything mid August, early September. So.
Yeah. How powerful is that now, though? Understanding the power of that dual like representation of agent investor. You
Yeah.
know.
I think what makes me as good of as an investor as I am, especially with the strategies that I teach and what I do with finding deals on the MLS and working with realtors for referrals, I had to start at my point of being a realtor. And the part of that for me that was really cool was that I did a lot at a young age that I very much am vocal about no 18 and 19-year-old kids should have been doing. I
Mhm,
was basically making calls 12 to 15 hours a day in the back corner by a bathroom, being forced to wear dress clothes and dress shoes, no snapback,
mhm,
anything like that. I was there for a short few months over at the brokerage I first chose. I got paid like $700 for a few deals closing. And rather than playing victim or woe is me, I took the skill set of being on the phones and qualifying leads all day to a guy that became my first mentor. And then I was 19 years old. I was doing commercial and business broker transactions, selling multi-million dollar horse ranches, recording studios, sub sandwich shops, nail salons, existing businesses, and utilizing my real estate license to get a commission in multiple ways that wasn't just helping people buy and sell homes. Don't get me wrong. I mean, at 19, 20 years old, I had a big team. I was a rising star and I had all the fun trophies and accolades and stuff of being a
mhm.
good realtor. But I realized that most of the reason why people get into real estate is freedom and flexibility, which was 0% of that as a traditional realtor, or even what I was dabbling into with my mentor of commercial and business broker real estate. So that was kind of my first 4-ish years of being in the business. It was being a subpar realtor that was better than average, but not really anything that I was interested in pursuing long term.
Yeah. It's interesting how some, when you speak to agents and things, the investing side is not like a strategy of it yet. And it seemed like you having that experience of coming in, hey, just give me $700 and
Mhm.
understanding you like, yo, I'm 18, 19, but this ain't it. Let me do something else. And having that mentor step into place. And now
Yep.
you're at the point where you educate millions. Man, your trajectory is one of the things, not on the side of being like a friend, but to an example, of like, hey, it ain't how you begin, it's how you end, it's how you the whole
Absolutely.
course of it.
Yeah.
So your journey now, like, because I don't want to dig too much into like the process of it, but the
Mhm.
agent investors community, understanding like when you think of agent investors, your name come to mind. It's yes, it's others that do it, all of the things, but you took it as a brand and an identity, and not only that, you stick to it. It's like this is me. Like you showing how the people get zero marketing
Yep.
and just make tons of money. I know what you make in terms of you post it, you talk about
Yep.
it and stuff, not from a like, oh, a boasting thing. It's just to show the possibility. That's something that I truly look at you for, man, like a humble,
Appreciate that, man.
straight down to earth person.
Thank
When
you.
you
Thank
look at your community and that impact, do you see that as like that's it? Because that's what I got from you. You say you always wanted impact, and then you just popped out with the course like later. I
you.
signed up like just
Yeah.
costing the stint for you, you know. Like I,
Yeah.
I respect you. How has that journey been, man? Just seeing someone never know anything about real estate start doing deals for you, man. Doing
It's
deals for themselves.
I've been telling this story a little bit more as of recent. We're close to 500 people total that have gone through Agent Investors since
Yeah.
April 1st, 22 until it's now January 25. Almost 3 years in, I've had members, one of which was just on my podcast a couple weeks ago that made just under $5 million last year. I've
Wow.
got, I don't even know how many people that have made between 1.5 to $3 million over the span of a year. And then to
Mhm,
see even people hit their very first million or very first six figures, I'm in a really cool spot because I want people to do better than what I'm doing myself. That makes me a really good coach and a great leader.
mhm,
But also too, I mean, I feel like I did what was so difficult that I can only imagine if someone was given the same opportunity as me, not to boost myself up, but I don't think most people would be able to do what I did. The amount of
mhm,
sacrifice, the amount of like connections, the amount of even dominoes falling in the right place at the right time,
mhm,
I can only imagine, especially for people that might be in their 30s, 40s, 50s, how much harder that opportunity would be if they were given the same deck of cards as me. So, really, my goal is to help people shorten a learning curve, whether that's 6 months, that's 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, or even a decade of experience in however much time that they're willing to commit to this. Really, to answer your question, I mean, it's something I still kind of pinch myself to this day. I don't think I'm anything special. I don't think
yeah,
I'm this God's gift to the universe. I think I just show up every day. I try my best, and whatever I put out in the universe comes back to bless me and the people around me, just because we do the right thing by others as well. So,
100%. That's so like that's what I like, man. I'm a consistent person with people I'm dealing with. I look for like the good, never the bad. You know what I mean? I'm always looking at the good, but one thing is consistency. Like literally the same thing you just said now is how our conversation with back then, like
yep,
2022, I think it was,
100%.
2021. You know what I mean? And that's key, man. The consistency of self, but acknowledging the growth that we all gotta grow. You don't just do all of this work to remain the same, right? But you do have that foundation inside, man. And that's so dope, man, to see where you started. I know it from the podcast, the Million
Yep.
of 30 up
Yeah, yeah,
until
with
that
Brent. Yep.
meetup, you know. So seeing that impact that you are putting on, how do you see like just this year, the market, the way 2024 was different. Like you had to be an
All right.
investor and in it to be doing something still, like
Yep.
legit. It separated like what I say, the men from the boys, so to speak, and those who plan and those who with it. How do you see this market playing out in terms of what's going on, and how vital is that agent investor strategy will be?
Yeah, a great question. I always like to make the joke that my crystal ball is charging in the other room. So this is all just opinion talking conversation.
Right, it is.
Uh, you know, I only have one bias with what we teach because this is the part that really doesn't resonate with me with education. Everybody is like very insecure in the education space that teaches. They're very much on the side of, well, I need to tell you why I'm the best and why my strategy is the best. And let me
Mhm,
tell you my logo, my brand, my community, my strategy, everything. I am the best. I'm like the Gen Z that's like, real estate is very, very tough. And we should have the first
mhm,
upfront conversation about how much money you have saved up. And then I should probably try to tell you all the scary things. And then if you're still interested, I will tell you my only bias, which is that my strategy is the best place to get started. I have people that
mhm,
make millions of dollars, like I said, doing just the things I teach. But even what I practice to this day, I make more money in some of the higher level investments of multifamily or lending or in buying rentals to offset taxes than I do in just active income. I could go make $1 million in a year in active income. But what no one talks about is the government taking 40% of that in
mhm,
taxes. So if we're talking 400,000 out of a million being taken away, my flex isn't the $1 million being made. My flex is the 25, 50, 100,000, whatever the tax bill ends up being, not being 40%.
mhm,
So that's where I just like to make it clear. The only bias I have is that this strategy is the best starting point. Finding deals on the MLS, regardless of what people say, if they're there or not, and working with real estate agents because it's not going to cost you money, it's going to cost you time. And I'd
mhm.
rather you make mistakes with something that didn't cost you $500, $2,000, whatever that range is per lead or per deal. Most people don't have that kind of time or money to spend together. So if you could spend, I don't know, 3 months, 6 months just dipping your toes in the water trying to find something for free, I'd rather people do that when they're first getting started.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's what I wanted to bring you on to. I was just at I got flew out to wanted me to come speak at this meetup, and I basically went over the same thing that you are talking about. Just hey, like you can pay for all this stuff, yeah, cool. But one thing about it is that you're gonna feel like you're wasting time when that money start feel like and it's not working and you just dumping in the
Well, and then you
software.
start getting stressed, and then you're
You
not
get
thinking
stressed.
normally. You're trying to
Mhm.
make all these decisions off of emotion rather than off of logic.
Right. You
Yeah.
get super stressed. So if you are actively doing something that's less money, you feel like you ain't wasting time. You know, you can't get time back. The money you can generate, but
Mhm.
that time. And that's what I like about the MLS strategy. You know, like you literally can go to if you don't have software, any other MLS sites, Redfin, Zillow, do all of these things and just
Yeah.
compile a list, then put it in the system, go a little faster. Kind of talk about like for the viewers to understanding like what does that look like in terms of your strategy?
Yeah. So the first thing is let's compare and contrast my traditional real estate business. So if someone's a realtor listening to this, your
Mhm,
$1 million word is called leads, meaning you're looking for buyers and sellers that are not just qualified, but motivated enough to either buy or sell a property and employ you to be their realtor. We're not even going to get into the conversation about how much you're going to get nickel and dimed and
mhm.
beaten up as a, well, are you sure you're worth 3% or whatever that is? Okay. That's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Realtors are looking for leads. Investors, 99.9% of them are out there targeting motivated sellers, meaning they're spending thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars, whether that is per lead or just per month in marketing,
Mhm,
with the hopes of trying to find some opportunity. And then you have the MLS. You already know that they're motivated enough to sell. They've already proven that because they've hired a realtor to help them do so. Yes, of course, they're looking for highest and best dollar, but there's opportunities on the MLS that have been sitting for 90, 120, 150, 180 days where the
mhm.
listing agent is about to lose the contract and the listing, the seller's fed up and they're just ready to release the property. You really don't know until you shoot your shot. And so I found that the same principles that were in play between realtors and investors that go directly to the seller and the consumer is the exact same game I'm playing in. The only difference is rather than paying thousands of dollars, I'm putting in time trying to find the highest motivation, which actually, if you know the MLS or Zillow or realtor.com or any of these sites, you can pinpoint the highest motivation by days on market, keywords, price reductions, the status of the property, the location, or even better, this overarching umbrella. how good are your buyers?
Mhm.
Remembering that I'm a realtor that would go find buyers and put them on the MLS and say, "What do you think?" I do the same exact principle with my investor buyers. I'll go get a commission paid by the seller as well as a wholesale assignment fee or a finder's fee, and I'll go and sell these deals directly to an end buyer that's going to flip it or keep it as a rental.
Yeah, that's so. Like for those listening, you are doing with MLS, which multiple listing services, or
Yep.
just seeing something that's on the market, right? And when
Yep.
you see that number, like 120 days, like we understand what we call the four pillars of of a motivated of a cold call: motivation, timeline, condition, price. Number one, motivation. If
Yep.
you don't have any motivation as a seller, I'm not reaching out to you
Right.
like constantly. It's too many people that need my assistance. So identifying that once you see it as say 120 days of 200,000, you know the 200,000 is not the number, right? No, homeowners definitely have offered lower. How do you evaluate it saying, hey, what I can offer based on the buyers? I know from one, having a buyers list, they tell you exactly
Mhm.
what they want to buy. They tell you
Mhm.
what they want to buy, how much, the whole buy box, what we call it.
Yep.
What do you determine? Is it there'll be like, hey, your buyer who buying here? Or do you just look at it 200,000 and say, oh, I need to be here?
I base everything off of buyers. I think one of the
100%.
biggest issues that wholesalers have in this industry, why there's a lot of bad rep and like just
Mhm,
labels around them, is because they don't perform. Most
mhm,
agents hate wholesaling because they are not educated in it and they might have had one bad experience with another agent or another wholesaler where
mhm,
a deal fell through and it was never a real buyer to begin with. So I'm very much the opposite of like the average wholesaler that's just lock everything up and just shoot your shots and something will hit. I protect myself, but I also make sure that I protect my buyer. And if I don't have a buyer lined up, I'm not going to just write an offer for the hell of it. I usually recommend people pick a market, find a buyer, pick a strategy of acquisition, whether that's direct to seller, joint venture, MLS, or agent outreach. And then after that, stay consistent with that one acquisition strategy for about 90 days. And then, depending on what you pick, maybe it's MLS and agent outreach. I don't follow a script, I follow a flow. I talk about the condition of the property that I'm calling. I'm
mhm.
calling about the seller's situation so I could figure out their motivation. And now, welcome to sales and basic 101 of anything with marketing. People will trade speed and convenience for price. So, if
Mhm,
I can get them to lower their price based off of the property's condition not being up to renovated standard, not being that the seller's able to keep this property if it doesn't sell, and now that I'm willing to tell them what it actually costs to renovate it and what our profit is, it is just a numbers game. And so I
mhm,
break it all down based off of yes, then my buyer's formula, typically 10, 15% of ARV. And then we take off about 8 to 10% from the top. The only thing left to determine is what the cost of renovations are, which generally we end up around low side 60, 65%, but in most cases between 65 to 75% of ARV.
mhm. General numbers, and that's what I was. I 100% knew you were gonna say bias. Like
Yeah.
that's the thing that I think is important is missing from it. Like people are quick to say, "Oh, I want to do the thing. I want to just start talking to sellers," and you lock something up, but you don't locking it up that fits
Yeah,
who.
with yeah, we have nobody in mind, and then what, you're basically blasting this thing out on a wholesaler's list, which, by the way, does not work with our strategy. Working on the MLS and with agents, the dumbest way to do this business and the easiest way to get a bad label is to take properties from the MLS and put them on some big disposition wholesaler's list. Your buyers will see that the deal came from the MLS. They will go around you, not
Mhm,
your exact close buyers, but the buyers on all of these lists.
mhm.
There is some bad apples that will call up the listing agent and now you're out of business and you don't have anything going for you. And I hope that you didn't have this under contract trying to get a price reduction. They're not going to play ball with you. So,
Yes, integrity, is the idea of saying, "Hey, you are explaining what you can do." A lot of times you can actually talk to an agent and be like, "Hey, I may not be the buyer, but I may have a investor friend of mine that does," you know?
yeah,
And now you
absolutely.
pitching it over and stuff like that. It makes it easier, when you just know what you're doing, who you giving it to, and the whole nine. It's like a reverse engineering it. That's what I kind of like to
That's
say.
exactly what it is. You're
Yeah.
plugging and playing. And that's why I said being a realtor first, I understood the game and I didn't need like this proof of concept of being an investor because I had already done probably about 50, 60 million in sales as a realtor.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, like find a buyer, get a deal, contract it. I just needed to know the terms and how to facilitate the deal. And then once I understood the game, I just had to find a strategy that aligned with my moral compass, which was not daisy chaining. It wasn't taking someone else's deal and marking it up. It wasn't going to someone else's list and just pretending to be something that I'm not. It was to go
Mhm.
and be the acquisition guy that understood how to find the deals and negotiate. And then from there, I will either commit to it and take the deal down myself to flip or to keep, or I will move it to one of my buyers and wholesale it. Regardless, I could put up non refundable earnest money.
Mhm. And it's like what your success comes from what you focusing on, you know? Like you said, I'm giving you 90 days. Just stick with this thing for 90 days, you know?
Yep.
And then if you want to add on, okay, add on other thing. A lot of people get that what they call the shiny object syndrome. Okay, this is
Big
working
time.
for Ryan, this is working for Chad, this is working for whomever, and you keep jumping around. That's so key and paramount what you said, man. Like legit. That's why I like your strategy a million percent, you know. And when it comes to just having that success, having that attention, how integral, like important do it be when it comes to that team? Like your partners. I've met some of them, you know,
Mhm.
namely one of the coolest ones I met, like 100%. Every time she see me, it's like we just seen each other 2 months ago, and that's Amber, you know.
Yep.
Now I know it's like, you know, where she stands in your life. But before then, she was y'all fit. It's like y'all was a team, but now I know, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Now the world know.
she started as my, she started as a transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
No, started as a traditional realtor, and then she made her way to a transaction coordinator. She's gotten promoted to the highest title of all now. She's my fiance.
Right,
But no,
right.
she's exactly what I'm talking about with team and role models. You want
Mhm,
people that, and this is actually a pretty bold kind of conversation. You want people that are the exact opposite of you in your
mhm,
life and in your business. Because when
mhm,
you start compiling the people around you that you think you want to be around and be like, you end up bringing the exact same person of yourself. So it
mm,
wasn't until I started implementing like personality tests, tests, the DISC personality, the predictive index, the I just went through another one called positive something that Steve Trang sent over to me. And it's
mm,
these studies that you need to find people that are complete polar opposites than you to be in positions on your team that you're not great at. So that was one thing from the start with Amber. She was my transaction coordinator that basically managed everything. She managed all my files, my escrows, my paperwork, my organization, my administrative tasks, everything that I'm not great at, obviously being a visionary.
mhm,
I also went and found people that were better at building out systems and integrations. I found people that were better at sales than me. And then the only person I've ever hired that has been almost an exact replica of myself is my acquisition manager now, Brandon.
mhm,
He's a beast. He runs my entire operation on acquisitions and handles about 10 ish closings per month. He is
mhm,
unbelievable. And the reason I put him into that role was because in the predictive index, he was a maverick just like myself. So it made me realize you're a natural born leader, which I already kind of knew, but I got the confirmation from that test. And I knew that if I didn't put him into a leadership role where he could thrive, he would end up leaving and going on to do his own thing. So you have to know
mm,
your team. You have to know the people that are in the right seats. I usually recommend personality tests, as you can see what I'm saying.
mhm.
And then last, like I mentioned first, make sure they are polar opposite and they fit into a role that you are not good at yourself.
Yeah, that's so good. Because that's what I was alluding to. Like when you thinking of partners that fit and where they come in. Because some people you know you don't know. They just come into your
They
space.
want to take, most people do. They want to come in
Take
and look,
right.
it's fine. I'm all for it. If you want to come in and be on my team for 6 months, 12 months, and then go and do your own thing, please, by all means. All I ask is that you just need to be upfront and honest about what your intentions are.
Mhm,
And then you can't take it personal or be upset when I say, hey, I'm not looking for anybody for a 6 month or 12-month turnaround. I'm looking for someone long term. There are
mhm,
teams that will gladly take somebody for a short term or to help build them up or to mentor them or whatever the case may be. But you just need to have the awareness on both sides, the person that's seeking the information and experience and the person that's trying to scale and build a business, that you're not looking for short term commitments.
mhm. That's what I found because I'm so much of a person that'll tell you, like you
Mhm.
come into my, I'm gonna just here you go, you know, and then they get so great at it or good at the thing that I want to, you know, gonna build my own empire essentially. Which again is, I'm like you, it's fine. You end up being JV with them and such like that, but that's what I found as one of the most, what I say bottleneck for me is that
Yeah,
I give, you know, and so I know if I'm doing all the things that I've amassed, you know, and it's always a humbling when I think about all of that stuff too, the things that
sure.
are encountered, the relationships like yourself and stuff that I
Yeah.
do not take for granted. But it's like how more when you have a solid team, you know?
Well, when you
And
have a solid team, you could be doing stuff like this right here, and the whole
yeah.
thing with even agent investors creating that.
Mhm.
I well, this kind of sounds bad. I didn't want to retire at a young age, but I also didn't want to just mess around. I mean, I didn't go to college, so I missed out, I'm sure, on a huge bit of partying and experiences in life. But even at a young age, like, what am I going to do with all this time? So
Mhm.
I didn't want to just kick up my feet and relax. So I went and I found a way to build my team around my lifestyle. And so my team is ran by Brandon for the investment side and acquisitions. Amber still handles our acquisition paperwork and transaction management, stuff like that. Most of her time and day is spent in admin tasks, helping me operate multiple companies. And then I spend a lot of my time now helping out in agent investors. I
Yeah.
teach, I coach, I do stuff like this, and I get to help out and just kind of paint the picture of what's truly possible in real estate. And then I like to pride myself in being probably one of the most accessible people in mentoring out there. You
Mhm.
can get on a phone call with me. You can hop on a Zoom call with me. I'll see you whatever next day it is because I do coaching calls every day of the week. And I
Mhm.
can be in multiple places at once because I have a strong team around me.
Yeah. See, that's the thing with myself, well, how I've combated it, it's been with those, I call them like independent acquisition guys. Cause they end
Hmm.
up doing their own thing, but they still running their own systems, not within mine. And that's kind of how I still do what I do. And then of
Hmm.
course in my other businesses and stuff is a actual operator, you know.
Yeah.
So I had a team, um, and like the TC business side, that's someone doing all of the things. But in terms of your branding, like someone sitting there, no, it had the company's independent things, which again is cool because it's time I get to do and things
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to other things, what are the other things that you're looking to focus on just within this year? I know you have other things like the staging company. Sure you
We
probably
actually got
still
rid of
have that.
that a couple of years ago. With the market changing, I realized I'm really bad at a lot of things, and so
Yeah.
um, I'm good at acquisitions. I'm good at teaching how to do acquisitions. I've got the family tree over at Real Broker with
Yeah.
some amazing business partners.
Hmm.
We've got about 160 agents all across the country that are in our community. So anytime they close deals, we're a part of that and we help them out. Um, Honestly, this year's kind of weird. It's my first time in my career that it's really not as much business goals as it is personal.
Mm.
I'm working on
Yeah.
my balance of life a little bit more, where I'm going to be trying to take some time off and travel around and enjoy the fruits of the labors. And then after that, I'll be getting married here in a couple months, and we're
Yeah.
going to be taking about a 3 to 5 week honeymoon where we are hoping to fully disconnect, or worst case scenario, work part time while we're traveling the world.
Yeah, love that, man. I congratulate you on that for sure when that
Appreciate
happened.
it.
Or like, man, that's so dope, to have that
Thank you.
and then to this next part of it. Speak about the family tree because I've seen people talk about that and the success and the
Yeah.
resources and all of the things, man. How does that look for, say, an agent trying to join in North Carolina? That's out.
Yeah,
That I know
so
you're based.
it's nationwide, across the entire country. I
Hmm.
was with, Matthew Potter, that's one of our business partners, and
Yeah,
Steve Trang. Steve, very well known in the real estate
yeah,
investment
100%.
business. Yeah, he's got one of the biggest podcasts, the whole 9.
Hmm.
He had a brokerage that he'd operated for over a decade, and one day I went to one of my meetings with him, and he was like, "So, we're gonna be shutting down Stunning Homes Realty." And I was like, "Oh, well, I appreciate you letting me know before I just went public, but I also when you tell me you've made up your mind is made up."
Yeah,
So, I had a few options, I'm not gonna lie. I shopped around, I went and interviewed a few different places, and I even got offered some pretty nice sign-on bonuses because the people in the industry knew what I was building and what my long-term trajectory would be.
hmm,
And I turned down a lot of cash offers. I turned down a lot of, equity, like percentages of stock or bonuses to sign on because of what I believed in with Steve, and also I saw the opportunity that Real Broker provided. So I had a very similar experience when I was at EXP Realty. I joined them prior to them really blowing up and exploding as like the first cloud-based brokerage. There was like 3 or 4 thousand agents when I joined. While I didn't have the greatest experience, what I did appreciate was that I saw the vision of the model. I saw the future of how real estate agency could be, where brokers that have all this risk and liability now don't have brick and mortar. They don't have office staff. They don't have, insurance or brokers insurance or all these different requirements and hoops to jump through. you could join a brokerage like Real or EXP or LPT or whatever the next one will be. And you could end up designing your brand of what your brokerage was around the brokerage that best aligns with you. And so what that looked like for me was that when Steve shut it all down, I approached Matthew Potter, who is probably one of the best short sale representatives and
Yeah.
traditional real estate agents in the entire country.
Yeah.
He's
Straight
done
up.
over 21,000 short sales with him and his wife.
Mhm.
Obviously, a lot more deals than me. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, look, at this brokerage that we end up at, I want to be able to provide and serve and lead the traditional real estate agents. While I have some good, I don't know, stuff on my resume, I don't have what I feel like is truly desirable for traditional agents, which is a lot of volume, a lot of activity, and a lot of listings, buyers, this, that, the other. And that's the name of what Matt and his wife, Nicole, do. So, Matt and I came up with this great idea, and then we went to the decision makers, his wife and Amber.
Yeah.
We were
Right.
like, what do you guys think?" And so we, the four of us, created the family tree rather than competing against each other at the brokerage Real, where we had all just moved from Steve's brokerage to. We decided to join forces and create a community together where anybody could put one of us as the sponsoring agents and they're a part of the family tree. And everyone at Real Broker gets access to all of the stuff we provide. And so our goal now is to lead from the front, just like how I do with agent investors. Matt does a coaching call every single week on Tuesdays. And again, being nationwide, anybody could join. We can help them out. We can get them all onboarded. And the benefit to joining us is all the resources we provide when they're in the family tree.
Oh, cool. So it's basically an licensed agent that's joining a virtual like nationwide brokerage and
Yep.
just getting those additional training and
They
resources.
get hundreds of hours from Real as it is. And then when they come join
Mhm.
us, you get the experience and mentorship from a guy like Matt and his wife, as well
Mhm.
as the resources that I can provide on the investment side on how to double dip, how to get commission paid by the sellers on the deals that we're getting under contract on the MLS. And then obviously, too, I mean, I'm not going anywhere from Real. I'll probably be at Real for the rest of my entire career. Unless I get some stupid offer one day, but even then, with what we've got going for us at Real, there's no reason for us to leave.
Yeah. I seen I didn't know Real was on this side. Like the
Mhm.
North Carolina, I was at my office, my virtual office, picking up mail and all those things. And he had the shirt on. I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
where you from?" And such and such. So I know people from there. I'm thinking he just from visiting, you know. So that does show the reach of what
Oh, dude,
that
it's
broker.
insane. They're one of the fastest growing brokerages, and while I have experience at other cloud-based brokerages, the coolest part of it all is that the people that have created Real and its structure and everything have the understanding of what bad looks like in this structure, and they've reversed it to be where what Real offers is probably some of the best splits and structures out of any brokerage out there. I mean, I started
Mhm.
at Keller Williams on a 70-30 split, Real's 85-15. The cap is a
Mm.
difference over at one brokerage versus where Real is. And then there's also long term benefit with revenue sharing, stock option plans, and no monthly costs, which is huge to most realtors while they're trying to build up their production.
Wow. That part I didn't know about. I know a couple people again that's in it, like personal.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's good at 85-15 as well as like those options to stay with them. That shows
Oh, yeah.
the idea of, like, having that micro attitude rather than taking the chunk and then people move on.
For
You
sure.
get micro from multiple, it adds up to way more, so I love that.
We're
That's
not in
really
the
it.
rush for anything, whether that's agent investors, it's a family tree. That's part of
Mhm,
why I've aligned with people like Matt and his wife Nicole, and that's also why I've partnered up with people like Steve and with
mhm,
Tracy, even with our flips. I want to be around people that have been doing this almost as long as I've been alive because
mhm.
they've proven that they've done this. They've got their
Yeah,
footing and foundation in the industry and they're not going anywhere. And that's what I think is very difficult to find in this industry, especially mixed with integrity and morals.
mhm. I did that same thing with a partner of mine on my flip side. He's,
Mhm.
Mike Palmer, custom
Yeah,
home builder, been, like,
absolutely.
huge thing on the thing, and it's I love to hear when people say that's like, "Hey, I want somebody that not just, okay, fly by night or whatever, but
Yeah.
grounded," you know? And everybody, if you don't, like, know Steve Train, probably on my side, but out there,
Mhm.
like, he is who he is. I met him, like,
Yeah.
and he's legit, before the podcast and all of those things. Matthew Potter is solid too. And I like one thing that I like about Matthew, and just the people you describing
Mhm.
with Matthew is that he's him. He's not no pretentious.
Oh, bro,
He's
he
short
doesn't like,
t-shirt.
he's gonna be Matthew every single
Yeah,
day.
be
He'll show
Matthew.
up with the goofiest face, goofiest attitude, but he'll
Right.
tell you just how it is, and him and I very much relate on the standpoint of just how direct we can be respectfully.
Hmm.
So, it's
Yeah.
good when you can find the people like that are on the same wavelength, and like I mentioned, the integrity, the morals, I really
Yes.
care to find people that are loyal, and once I
Hmm.
find that, happy, healthy relationships, and when you start talking their name around town, you're not gonna hear anything negative. That's what I appreciate with the partnerships I've got.
Yeah, 1,000,000%, man. 1,000,000%. And you can, and just hearing everything you saying, it kind of puts me in a different like idea of like, okay, that's what Ryan is. That's where to get this from. This how
Mhm.
he's curating it. And it starts with self though, You have to look at yourself first, and then it's kind of like, yeah, you get those who don't are not like you in aspects of like their skill set and all those things. But
Yeah,
actually who you are attracts that thing. If
yeah.
you a credit type thing, you're gonna end up tracking somebody that's credit. It's just how it's gonna
You
work
got
out
it,
for you.
bro. You hit it right on the
Yeah.
head.
Yeah, 100%, man. So for agent investors, and just for those who don't know, because I want to keep saying it, because I really want people to like tap into that. That's like really good, especially for these times. Like having the idea to go right where the deals are, it takes off the level of motivation. You already know they want to sell because it's listed. A lot of
Mhm.
times, the seller don't even know that their house isn't top like market. They don't know
Right.
that. They just say, "I want what I want." And then some realtors just want to take on the
They'll
listing.
just say, "Yeah, I'll do it
Right.
because I don't have any business, so I'll do it," and then they only care about their commission.
They only care about the commission.
Yep.
But having an idea of if you're an agent, you can also come in with these both skill sets. And if you're
Mhm.
not an agent, you can just be an investor and then utilize this strategy as well. You know,
100%.
I think that's super key. Just going into this market, man. Like, I don't know what it holds. Like you say, that crystal ball in the next room idea. You don't. You just hear the economists, the pundits, and all of this stuff saying, "Okay, third quarter is gonna look like this. Oh, it's gonna be golden age."
I mean,
Like,
that's what they're saying. Q3,
yeah,
Q4, we should see high fives, low sixes, bunch of rate drops. I don't know. I mean, I think there's so much that could happen. What I will have
I don't know.
learned is just I've been around where there's been Republicans and Democrats in office. I've
Hmm.
seen when I started, it was Obama to then Trump to then
Hmm.
Biden to Trump again. Republicans print money. So if they
Right.
keep printing money, rates will drop. And if they find a way to get rates, I'm not going to say where they were, but if you
Hmm.
could get them into the high fours, low fives, I think you'll see investors absolutely booming. I think you're going to
Yeah.
see the buying process of people that actually have an American dream again being a reality. Right now, the biggest concern that we have in our country is affordable housing. And so that's why companies like Pad Split or multifamily or
Hmm.
even smaller, I don't know, like Section 8 or affordable housing options are becoming more popular. My biggest concern with stuff like that is that who everybody hates usually is these big corporations. Those are the ones winning with most of the strategies that make sense right now. So
Hmm.
what I care more about is how to make things affordable for the first time home buyer, for the community that might not have been on the map yet, but now has a new community, whether that's new construction, new builds, whether that is small multifamily or even condensed living. I don't think
Hmm.
there's anything wrong with townhouses, condos, or finding a way to be able to have a small piece to a bigger picture. As long as you have ownership, that's what I think 99% of the world should be striving for, because renting forever is not a solution, especially when you get to the end. Um, it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I feel like there's like this scorecard. I just probably have
Hmm.
played too many video games, but I feel
Hmm.
like when you pass away, there's going to be like this scorecard: amount of hours spent working, amount of hours spent traveling, amount of hours spent with your loved ones, how much money you spent in rent, how much money you would have made if you did XYZ investments that you looked at and considered but didn't pull the trigger. There's
Hmm.
so many things that I feel like perspective wise have just shifted on my end to know the reason, or at least one of the reasons that I have wealth is because I own assets.
Hmm.
I have multiple properties that are in my names and LLCs and all these things, plus high active income. That's the recipe to success. And that's what I think most people in American, like dream wise, should be striving for, is how to actually own a property, which again is one of the biggest issues we run into right now.
Hmm. That's a summation right there, man, of just where you coming from, where you start. Like everybody looking at it, like a lot of people, not everybody. That's a real absolute statement, but a lot of people that I do run into is like don't have the idea of the power of ownership, you know?
For sure.
Because for me, my story is that I didn't have it. So
Right.
I wanted to own. My thing is that I gotta own because I seen how whether it was the landlord maybe treating my grandmother, my mom,
Yeah.
stuff like
Big
that.
time.
So hey, I gotta change this. So once I figured out how to get in the game, I started just doing it, you know. Cause so for people that's listening, the takeaway from that, man, don't wait to 10, 5, 2 years today. Just start
Literally.
learning something today, you know. Like try to change your situation and then watch it compound, you know.
Mhm.
That's what we call compound interest, for example, how the
Big time.
beauty of that. So having the assets and having the active income, which totally leads to just constant wealth because you're writing it off your taxes in terms of keeping more in. I'm the thing of all money in, less money out, you know, and then not really having that as your goal, but it's something that you said is it's like that scorecard, and you name multiple things: your
Mhm.
family, your loved
Oh, yeah.
ones. You know, people get absorbed in that. How important is that? That's one thing I want to touch on before we leave out. How important is that? Like what you about to start with Amber, for example, and then
Mhm.
other people, of course, you don't talk about your family and stuff like that we,
Yeah.
audience don't know and stuff. But the importance of that going forth, because you spoken from wisdom, 100%. You're speaking from experience.
There's a season of sacrifice, and you have to suck it up and just deal with it,
Mhm,
and I hate to be that blunt, but, the reality is that when you're first getting started, the season of sacrifice is however long you want it to be. You know, when you go to Disneyland, there is a fast pass for a reason. So whether that
mm,
means you join a team and you learn from somebody that's sitting in the seat that you're wanting to be in, assuming they're willing to take you, hopefully you have value to offer, like what I did to my first mentor. I knew he was busy. I brought the willingness to sit on the phone for 12 to 15 hours a day and work through leads. I
mhm,
knew value.
mhm,
Finding that person and joining their team, or pay to be in the room. And this doesn't need to be me. Like, I hope for most people, I seem the same on every podcast or show or coaching call or whatever, because I don't try to be someone I'm not. But I
mhm,
will say, whether it's me or it's somebody else, it doesn't make a difference to me. Who it makes the biggest difference to is you listening. So find the person doing what you want, whether that is MLS and agent outreach or multifamily or creative finance or development lending or whatever it is.
mhm.
Find that person, even Chad, find that person to learn from, pay them to get in the room, take that shortened learning curve, and now you're able to go and apply faster. And for the ones that maybe that's not in the Rolodex of opportunity, completely understand and I hear you, get a job. Okay. I will be the one asshole on this show. I'm sorry.
I
Or people
love
on
it.
the podcast. Get a job. Okay. Go get a part
That's
time
why you
job. Do
yeah.
what you got to do. Pay the fucking bills. And then from there, guess what ends up happening? The opportunities, because the harder you work, the luckier you get. It's like
Yeah.
what I always say is that blue Jeep analogy. You
Mhm,
drive and you go buy the blue Jeep because no one has one. You drive it off the lot, and suddenly everybody on the way home has a blue Jeep. It's the same thing with business. If you
mhm,
know what you're looking for and you start researching and you start putting it into your own brain, you're going to organically start seeing more opportunities. So, with
mhm.
all that said, you have to find a way to sacrifice for a season to then get yourself into the opportunity of a lifetime.
That's
And
it.
so that's really what my focus is this year. It's to be able to, again, for context, 9 years later, take my foot
Mhm.
off the gas. And dude, if I don't make money for 2 months, it doesn't change anything. Now, with that said, I will have enough
Right.
play people in place and I'll have enough systems and processes to cover me for whatever I need to be done immediately. But really, my biggest headache while I'm trying to figure out personal stuff is, how do I run these coaching calls? That's the biggest headache that I have. And so if that's my biggest headache in my current season, I'm in a really blessed spot to be able to now make my priority family, personal relationships, experiences, and things that money truly, really can buy, but it takes a lot of it. So,
Yeah.
season of
100%, man.
sacrifice, but then you'll get to the promised land.
100%. I love that, man. That's a real segue into just trying to wrap things up, man. You saying a ton, and I really want people to like go back and listen to. He dropped a few things in here I was wanting to like continue to touch on, and that's what I like about it. Like the one thing I do again, respect about you, but admire about you as well. You super blunt and you real. Like you would say when like, hey, they people teaching all this stuff and you basically have your hands up like, man, come on, like I'm doing this with this,
Yeah.
and I like that. I like people that's like not just what I call drinking the Kool-Aid because it
I
sounds
talk a lot of
in the
shit.
street. Yeah.
I'm unfortunately guilty of the shiny object syndrome you were referring to, and I pulled out
Yeah.
my credit card one too many times when I didn't have the money to invest
Mhm.
into things that I thought were going to help me immediately, that turned into being just an MLM or another sales pitch or a, oh, but wait, there's more $40,000 sign up at the back of the room. It
Right.
wasn't all rainbows and butterflies. So I don't have any remorse or regret, but what I do have now is a lot of money and I don't want to say power, but perspective,
Mhm.
that I don't have my hands tied. So if I am now going to spend my time on social media calling out a lot of the nonsense and BS and
Yeah.
gurus, uh, I got time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, bro. Like for legit, because I've done the same thing, and I don't have no regret behind it because it allows me to
Good
see
lessons.
who.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I done paid all this money. Like, oh nah, that's just the same thing as this thing. They just talk. I don't want to talk. So every 2-day intensive I put on or something like that, I tell them immediately like, hey, we ain't gonna do a lot of talking. Like if you don't got your laptop, you can walk. I have to like remove you from here because you're gonna be a distraction. You're here to work,
100%,
you know. And
100%,
I
man.
think that's where I truly think that's where everything is going. When you see someone like, and just to wrap this up, when you see a person like Sam Altman of
Oh yeah.
OpenAI say, we are creating a chat GBT that's going to be PhD level agents, that's like, okay. So that means that I don't have to go to school for 4 years to learn how to do a software engineer. I do it
You could
right
do it
here.
all inside coding on ChatGPT, or you could learn. I mean, really, right now, even with what the extent of AI is, you could literally figure out how to do most of the things that people went
Hmm.
to a 2, 4, sometimes 6 or 8 year degree in a college for
Hmm.
within a couple months. Worst
Yeah.
case, sometimes even a couple minutes or a week.
Hmm. That's why I think that's why it's so valuable to have people like you to take the time, educate, and keep giving you that ongoing. And that's how I
Mhm.
look at it. Because you can go learn this, but the value comes from your relationships and connections. That's what take you to somewhere else, not just the
Absolutely.
course. So to wrap it up, bro, one thing I like to have my guests do is just something to give to people. It ain't it's motivation, it's a word, it's an experience or just a pathway, just a word to lead them on. And you gave it the last time because it's like I'm double dipping on you right now. You know what I mean? But I like to have that to get that from, and I call that the third, the final part. It's this, that, and the third. And this is the third thing. It's like, what is that thing that you would like to get to people, man?
You know, I try not to sound too cliche or like wishy-washy with anything because a lot of this business, it's variables. It's
Hmm.
dependent on your time, your money, your perspective and outlook on things, your ability to commit and stay consistent, and how easily you get discouraged. A lot of real estate has ups and downs. So if what real estate is to you is just money, that's fine for a season that money could be what drives you. But to succeed long term, I would like to say not just in real estate, but in business as a whole, you need to have something that is burning through you every single day that allows you to go and become the best version of yourself in business and personal. I used to realize that I was operating out of fear. I was scared to have to go work a 9 to 5, or I was scared that I was going to end up having to work in my family's business, which would have been the easy way out. And I had a lot of different things that was scary to me that I just didn't want. And that's what motivated me. And it wasn't until I went through a lot of therapy and started investing into a few other mentorships that were personal development that I realized I'm now operating out of the ability to provide, out of the
Hmm.
ability to be secure, to protect, to be able to
Hmm.
use money with power for good to get things to be done easier and efficient, and all these different things. So really for most people listening, you need to find that dog in you and like let that be what inspires you every single day, and then write it down and have it in front of you. My desktop wallpaper is a vision board, like little
Hmm.
things like that, that every day when I load up my computer, it's what I look at. And then from there, I don't know. I've already said go find a mentor, all this stuff. I'm not trying to make my case for myself, but I will say I've got enough free resources on my school community and YouTube and social media that is probably worth more than some people's $10,000 courses,
Hmm.
that you could always start there just to get a perspective. And if you wanted to have a further conversation, myself, my team, my community, we are very much accessible and open to help and inspire and give you the feedback on anything you have as a question. And then, really, as I put my last disclaimer, the rest is up to you. I can't wipe your ass. I can't make the calls for you. I can't submit the offers for you. I can't follow up for you. But if I can provide the blueprint, that's more than I had than when I first got started.
That's it, bro. I appreciate you, Ryan, man, 100%. Again, I don't take no relationship I have for granted.
Mhm.
That's why I don't bug a lot of people like that too. I hope to do stuff with you. I got tons of stuff in the pipeline. I was playing. That's the reason why I reached out to you too, man. But
Yep.
I appreciate your time because I know this thing is valuable and what you
Appreciate
have
you, bro.
given not only the people but myself. I take stuff from this thing all the time. You know what I mean? I
For
just
sure.
want people that's legit, so that's doing it. So until next time, people, this is this, that, and the third, man. Just like how it sounds. You don't have to do what this person is doing. Find your niche and what gets you, like you say, out of the bed. What the Japanese word is called ikigai. Your passion, your purpose, man.
I
Appreciate
love
you,
that.
Ryan. We're
Appreciate you,
gonna
bro.
keep going. All right,
Yes, sir.
bro.